Don't worry, we're going to get to our conversation about world changers really quickly. But first tonight, I want to start with a fun question. Actually, we'll do a couple of questions here before we get to our conversation and see what Jesus says about changing the world. So here are your questions to start with. The first one is this: if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose and why? All right, back to back questions here. Talk about a person you know who brightens your day. What does that person do or say that makes your day brighter? Following Jesus is about so much more than believing the right things or having the right opinions about things. In fact, Jesus calls us to be world changers. Now, in order for us to have a better understanding of what Jesus means when he says world changers, we're going to use a metaphor that Jesus used with his disciples, this metaphor of light and darkness. We've talked about this before. In fact, just at Christmas time, we lit some candles that represented Jesus coming into a dark world and being light in a dark world. We talked about candles that represented hope and peace. Jesus uses this idea when he's talking to his disciples, this idea of light and darkness. But he doesn't talk about himself this way. In fact, here's what he says: "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." Let's think about this idea of a city on a hill for a minute. If you drive at night in West Texas, you drive through long stretches of really dark areas. And in fact, West Texas has some of the darkest areas in the whole country. But when you approach a city, you can see it for miles and miles and miles away because you see a glow on the horizon. You see the light of the city long before you get to the city. So imagine if the city were built on a hill and it were lit up at night, how much better you would be able to see that city. So Jesus paints this picture for his disciples, and then he tells them, "You are the light of the world." When people are driving along in the darkness of the world and they're caught up in the world's evil and they see a city ahead of them, that's you. You're the ones lighting up the darkness. Maybe you learned this song when you were a kid. We do it with our Thursday school kids on Thursday mornings, and you hold your finger up like this and you sing, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Well, that's where this song comes from. It comes from these verses. Jesus telling us, his disciples, that we are the light of the world. Then Jesus continues with this metaphor. He says, "Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house." So see, I have this cool lantern here, and it can actually get quite a bit brighter than what it is right now. Let me do this. There, now see how bright that is? So if I took my cool lantern here and lit it up like this, then it lights the whole room. But you would think it was really silly of me if then what I did was, oh, I got my lantern lit, and then I put this bucket over it. You would say, well, that's kind of pointless. Well, you wouldn't do that, of course. You want to keep the light uncovered. In fact, you want to put it in a place where everybody can see it, where it gives light to the whole room. So, hold on. Okay, that's better. When you turn this thing up, it actually gets really hot too. And even the kids' song has a verse about this. The Thursday school kids do it like this: "Hide it under a bushel. No, I'm gonna let it shine." So you know what I'm talking about, right? So same idea here. What's the point of having a light if you're going to cover it up? And then Jesus has a little more to say here. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. And then here's the next part. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So Jesus is starting to get a little more practical here. Our light shining in the world is not just us being here. It's tied to the things that we do, things that Jesus calls good deeds. Well, what does he mean by good deeds? I don't know if you were ever in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, but they use this motto that actually describes good deeds pretty well. The Boy Scout motto, the Girl Scout motto, they're the same. It says, do a good turn daily, which is just another way to say, do a good deed every day. Now, they actually, on their website, they have a pretty good way of describing what they mean by a good turn. They say this: some good turns are big, saving a life, helping out after floods or other disasters, recycling community trash, working with your patrol on conservation projects. But good turns are often small, thoughtful acts. Helping a child cross a busy street, going to the store for an elderly neighbor, cutting back brush that is blocking a sign, doing something special for a brother or sister, welcoming a new student to your school. Now listen, a good turn is more than simple good manners. It is a special act of kindness. You can see how doing good deeds would bring light into a dark world. Of course, Jesus takes it one step further, and he's always taking things one step further. He talks about our motives, meaning he talks about why we do what we do. Because you see, we would tend to do this. I want to do a good thing because I want people to say about me, he's a really good person. Or they would just think better of me if I did good deeds. But Jesus says, no. That's not the idea here. The idea here is your good deeds point to your Father in heaven. So don't forget that God is still the central figure in the world's story. Now, I don't want us to get hung up here on the motive thing. I don't want us to be able to use the motive as an excuse and say, well, I didn't have a good motive, so I didn't do a good thing. First of all, that's nonsense. But second of all, what Jesus actually said was, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. By the way, even the kids' song has a verse about this. You sing, let it shine for Jesus, I'm gonna let it shine. Actually, we have them do it real big. Let it shine for Jesus, I'm gonna let it shine. So it's time now to get super practical with this. We need to know what it would mean for us to do good deeds that would glorify God. I have some ideas, but I think this would be a good thing for us to talk about in our groups. Now, this is going to be a specific question, a personal question. I don't want you to get lazy and just give the answer of be nice to people. Really think about actual people and actual good deeds that you could do for others. Here's the question. What specific things can you do for someone else that would shine light into that person's life? So before we end, we're going to look at our verse one more time. And I want you to make it very personal this time, as though Jesus is speaking directly to you. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Or maybe I can just stick this melody in your head one more time. as we set out to become world changers. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.